Rodney was schooling us on Black Friday. Oh, we're live. We're live. What up? What up? What up? What up? Hey, it's been a long time. I shouldn't have left you without a podcast. The step two, think of how many podcasts you slept through. Time's up. I'm sorry I left you. Hey, I do not own the rights to that music. Shout out to Eric B and Rakim. This is episode 38 of the Collective Podcast. He is Saucier Senior, a.k.a. Rodney Saucier Sr., a.k.a. Noah's buddy, a.k.a. Cain and Abel's real daddy, a.k.a. Old Man Long Beach. And I am AC from LA, Anthony Carter. And we have our favorite guest host, Anthony Cobbs, AC Sports Live. At some point, I'm gonna approach Anthony Cobbs with an idea for an all AC podcast where it's just he and I, but I haven't done that yet. So anyway, our favorite guest host is here, Anthony Cobbs from AC Sports Live, and he's down below. I don't think that Trey is going to be joining us today. Trey is Christmas shopping right now. So, hey, is what it is. But we are here. We took 2 weeks off for various reasons. In the time that we were gone, I wound up breaking my foot and going from a splint to a walking boot. I'm down for a total of 12 weeks, which means I have 10 weeks left, which means I'm essentially going to miss officiating the entire basketball season because I'm not back until February 12th. And college basketball started yesterday. So it is what it is. That being said, how's everybody doing? Rodney, what's up?
Hey, man, hanging in there, doing my yearly Thanksgiving tradition where I just have the Wire marathon starting from season 1 to the end.
You watch a rewatch? You rewatch it?
I rewatch it every Thanksgiving week.
My apologies.
Like clockwork.
You trying to make sure you don't go back into dope dealing?
Wait, how often did he say he watches it?
Every year to remind himself so he don't fall off the wagon.
Oh man, that's your late November tradition to watch The Wire.
The Wire, season 1 through 5.
And how long does it take you to do that every year?
Probably about 6 or 7 days.
Oh, you ain't playing.
Nah.
Even the slow season, you watch that one too?
That one too.
What was that, season 4? Was it 4? Where
2. When they go to the dock.
The precinct and start getting to the inner workings of their setup.
Yeah, the harbor.
That was hard.
Season 2.
So what you guys don't know is Rodney actually used to teach Snoop, and he actually sold Prop Joe his first brick. So Rodney used to do it big in Baltimore. Yeah, that's right. Baltimore. Baltimore. Be more. You gotta say it right.
More.
Gotta say it right. What you got, Anthony Cobbs? How you doing, sir?
Man, I'm mad as fish grease, man. I just moved because I was at the golf course, and as we gonna do the show after I'm done, I'm gonna hit some balls. But I know I didn't have no reception where I was parked. So I came across the street to one of my schools I worked for to get the Wi-Fi. I pulled a Mac 10 and hit my Dana's on the curb, and now I got a flat tire.
No,
I'm sitting here and my light goes on, like my tire pressure is low. I go out, it's out there going.
Oh no!
So I got a man decision to make. Do I get up under this car and get this truck wheel from underneath? Because the trucks got the wheels underneath.
Yeah,
it ain't like you can pull it out the trunk. It's underneath the car. And I'm parked conveniently in a parking lot, so I could just go ahead and do it myself. Or do I do a punk move and call AAA and come have him do it?
Man, you black it. AAA. We black it. AAA.
AAA. Be a little bit older. My back hurt.
Right.
I gotta brace myself to get down the ground, so AAA it is.
Yeah, you start taking the bolts off of that thing, man, your back will be out for at least 8 days. At least.
And then got to pick the tire up and then readjust it, put it back up. Yeah.
And then here's the crazy part. Listen, I love the fact that the other AC has such dedication. Go Bruins. that he went to find better reception at one of his schools where he could get free Wi-Fi, as he stated.
I
But
said,
Hit it
Bang
like a
McDaniels on
G.
the curve.
the funny thing is we deal with reception issues from Rodney and his Android. I know Anthony
He
from
got
Rodney
an
and
Android
his
now?
Android every week.
I thought Rodney was broadcasting his next day of chirp. Over. Chirp.
All right. How y'all do? So we're here on Wednesday because excuse me, there's a holiday tomorrow. Sorry I didn't eat. I'm super excited for a full day of football. What do you guys think?
They just pulled one. They just pulled the best game of the day and moved it to Sunday. I'm hot.
Yeah.
The night game.
That's strike
Steelers.
two. That's strike two today. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Steelers not playing.
So Juju and them hot on Twitter.
I can imagine.
Was this a COVID thing?
Has to be.
Yeah, they're some guys from the other team tested positive.
Wow.
Like a couple of days is gonna change that.
Right. Yeah, I'm tripping off of how it went from 2 weeks to now you can be back in 2 days.
The deception. They don't care about these guys' health. They're just trying to act like they care a little bit. Same thing with the NCAA. They make it seem like it's about the kids' health, when actually they're weighing the money. Like, can we still make the money? If they play on Thursday night, everybody's watching in the world. That's a big money game. But they can still make that money because it's a classic matchup. They'll still get the viewership on Sunday. And they can still have the stars playing. It must have been star players. It must have been Lamar Jackson and them kind of guys. Like, if Lamar Jackson don't play, you don't have a game.
Yeah. Well, I know one of them was Dobbins, the receiver.
Yeah.
I think he is a receiver.
And then from what we heard from UCLA last week, it's direct contact. It ain't even got to be you. It's just, are you in direct contact with that person that was, found to have the Rona?
Right.
And then they got to do, I think, a series of days of testing. So they're saying, in order to move from Thursday to Sunday, these guys got to test negative for the next 2 days.
Yep.
So listen, let me play devil's advocate. I'm not arguing that they don't care about the players, but I just want to be clear about who needs to test negative twice.
Those
Not
in
the
direct
people
contact.
who tested positive, it's the people that were around them. So the people that are out, they're out.
Yeah,
They
they're
can't
out.
come back after 2 days. I just wanted to make that part
Yeah.
clear.
Unless they got a false positive. That's where it
Right.
really gets tricky. Like, was it a bad test? Like Nick Saban, he was positive and then he was cool 2 days later with a false positive.
And you know what? That happened with my cousin's softball program. That happened with one of the players on one of the teams. I won't go any deeper than that, but with one of the players on one of the teams, they wound up with 2 tests. Excuse me, one at, let's say, UCLA Medical Center, and the other one, Harbor UCLA. No, it was Harbor UCLA, and the other one, let's just say it was County USC. It wasn't, but let's say County USC had the wrong test, and the UCLA Medical Center had the correct test, which is pretty much how it goes with UCLA and USC. But it was on the same day or within 24 hours. So then it was like the player, he or she, but it's a girls program, so you can figure that out, had to go get tested again. And the third test was actually negative. So we figured that it was a false positive. So that does happen at times. But anybody that tests positive, they always retest them to make sure that it is actually positive. So, yeah.
Do y'all remember? You remember when HIV came out and when you went to go get tested for HIV? You remember how scared you were sitting in the clinic? And I was at UCLA getting my test. And I'm like, ain't gonna be no retest. Like, if it's positive, I'm gonna be in a press conference like Magic Johnson. But I just remember, like, my daughter got tested because she went back to Howard for a meeting, and she came back, and she wanted to get tested to make sure because there was a spike in DC.
So it looks like his Wi-Fi has a flat tire, so he'll be back. So so Rodney is fun. I don't know. I don't know.
Are we suffering interference? But she got her negative back on via text message.
Wow.
Oh,
I was just like that. That ain't how it went down for us. When we got them tests back when HIV was out, that doctor came in there at that clipboard. And he started looking down the list. And it was a bunch of negatives and then some positives. And you could see him as looking over looking at the clipboard for your name. And not the same. I mean, if you are positive, there are things we can do. Make sure you'll be okay. As if you have a pre-existing condition where you need to be very, very, concerned about diagnoses. But, it is what it is now. You have to take precautions. These players, I say they don't care because they're playing. I mean, if you go back before anyone played anything during the pandemic, before they opened things back up, we were like, if it's that deadly, they shouldn't play. Because we need to make sure we get this under control. But they forced it. They would play. So now what was so important that they had to play right now?
Yeah.
Instead, they wanted to play. Of course, kids want to play. But if they're not professional athletes getting picked around why they're playing if it's so dangerous. So I think it comes back to money, And the SEC. The SEC has different rules than the Pac-12. So it's all inconsistent, and it's hard for us to tell our kids why they can't play, why they can't do stuff. So it's tough, man.
Yeah. Well, just going back to what you said. So were you tested on campus that first time? And all right. Technical difficulties at the schoolhouse. So going back to what he said, when HIV, when HIV first came, that was a little too early for me to be tested because I wasn't sexually active when HIV came out. Now I know, Rodney was in his heyday at that point, and maybe
you were a grandfather already.
Nah, buddy, nah. But when I did finally take my first test, it was kind of one of those where it was like, all right, well, I know I've been, as we said back then, strapped up, using condoms and stuff, but they said that, there was still a chance that you could catch it even using condoms. So I was still a little scared, a little terrified. And then, I would say that I wasn't 100% responsible back in the day. So there was more than one test, and I was always a little anxious waiting on those results. So I can only imagine look at what Rodney's been through from test. I don't know how did you guys test for the plague back then? Was there a test, or was it just like if you had lesions and stuff, they knew you had it, or going from the plague to what polio? There's a vaccine for polio and rickets to HIV to COVID-19.
You gonna go?
So you've seen it all. Well, I guess you made it through it all. Huh?
There were when we first got tested, there were 8 of us, and we didn't go on campus. We ran to the neighborhood clinic in the hood in DC.
Mm-hmm.
And
you wanted to catch it at the clinic while you were getting tested, or what?
No, but I mean, at the clinic back then, you didn't have to use your real name. You didn't have to do when you filled out the form. You put a name down, address, phone number, and when they called you by a number. So, you sit there and wait, and it's like 37, and then it's like, okay, that's me. So no one in the lobby actually heard your name. And when you filled out the form, like I said, I didn't even put my real name. I put like
111 because that's how old you were. So that makes sense.
like Cecil Jackson or something. I was somebody, but
Was
I
that,
did.
was that your conversion van name back in the day?
So I did put my real address and phone number just in case there was, I didn't know. And when you first take that first one, especially at that time, and they had so little information, and the results didn't come to you in a few minutes. Like they made you wait for like 2 weeks. So that whole 2 weeks, you start thinking back like, man, that time she came over, she coughed wrong, and that other one, she had a runny nose, and I let her come over anyway.
That other one.
Your mind started playing tricks
Ronnie
on
said that other one.
that other one, and then you start thinking, well, no, she was cool, and it couldn't have been her, and so you start trying to like narrow it down to if this comes back the wrong way, who could it be? And it was a scary time, man. I mean, like sweating, and finally, they send you the little notification in the mail. If you're negative, they just send in the mail, you're negative.
Yeah.
If and like the crazy thing is, if you were positive, they called you. So every time your phone rings, after a certain hour, you thinking, you thinking, could this be the call?
Yeah.
I mean, if it's after 8 a.m. between 8 and 5, you scared to answer the phone because you like, man, they gonna call me and tell me this stuff.
Yeah.
And when Magic announced it, then I know a lot of guys that I grew up with in Long Beach, they were scared because some of them actually dated women Magic had dated. So there was a Long Beach panic going around, like, oh my goodness.
Just to be clear, we're not saying that Magic actually dated anyone while he was married to Cookie.
Right.
Rodney is just speculating. Okay.
Right.
Like that, Rodney is not confirming any of that.
Well, no, I'm not saying he cheated on his wife because I don't think he just got married and then got it after the fact. I think he had it prior, and Cookie just she tested negative. She just didn't get it. But we don't think like that when we're younger. We don't care when he got it. It was just like, okay, who did he mess with that I mess with? That's all that matters.
Yeah, so you are definitely older than me because I wasn't thinking that I messed with anyone that Magic Johnson messed with. So,
Hey,
yeah,
what?
I get it.
You lived in West LA. He was young. He was at St. Mary's High School, St. Michael's.
If he was at St. Mary's and St. Michael's, it's a problem.
Hey, look, he came in at 19. Some of them were 18.
He also came in 79.
And then
that was
you were held back before it was popular. So you
don't you love how the guy makes a joke about me being held back when I was actually skipped twice? So here's the funny thing about the day that he announced. If anything could be, it's not funny, but it's interesting, and there's a Long Beach connection for me. So I was helping a friend of mine named Lance Ragus, who went to Sarah. I was helping him coach at St. Bernadette, and we were at basketball practice, and somehow, I don't know if we got paged or he got paged or I got paged, but somehow we got notified that we needed to turn on the TV. So we went in the kindergarten room and we watched Magic's press conference. Where's the Long Beach connection? He later moved to Long Beach, and his kid went to St. Anthony, which is actually, now that I think about it, not Long Beach, but it's close enough because they play out there. And so anyway, Ragus, I don't know if you guys know Lance, or I know Rodney, we officiated his son, but I don't know if you guys know him or not. So
name sounds familiar.
Anyway, Ragus, yeah. So yeah, there's the Long Beach connection. I guess just because we were in the Long Beach football unit, maybe that's it. And they played more league teams. So just thought about that.
They got my two AAA trucks right there. They already got cars jacked up on them.
Wow. So thank you for watching the Collective Podcast. And if you're checking us out on Spotify or Anchor or any of the DSPs after the fact, thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. We appreciate you. We appreciate you. We appreciate you. It's AC from LA, Saucier Sr., a.k.a. Cecil, and our favorite guest host, Anthony Cobb, AC Sports Live. It's so funny, Cecil.
Methuselah, Cecil.
Hey, shout out to some of our favorite viewers, Dietrich Ellis and David Smoot. We have officials there. They officiate sports just like Rodney and I, or I used to.
Lucius Harris. Remember that name?
Yeah, Bird.
That's a sweet name. Lucius.
Yeah. The lights out.
Lucius Harris.
So all right. So Thanksgiving without Baltimore and Pittsburgh, I think we're left with 4 sub 500 teams. Yes.
What, the NFC East?
NFC East.
Yeah, we can start eating early tomorrow.
Is there a basketball game or some college games on or something? Or are we gonna have the Turkey Bowl at Powell?
They're all canceled, man. Like nobody's playing anything.
Maybe we can organize Insanes versus 20s.
You know what? I think they usually have a MAC game on Thanksgiving.
Let's get the old game bangers together and have a good old game at the Kings Park.
Yeah.
Insanes versus 20s, old heads versus youngs.
Ooh, so I'm gonna let them Long Beach guys talk about that. I'm just gonna sit here and watch.
Hey, you from LA, so they were playing against the 60s too. They started traveling.
I saw enough of the 9-0s and the Hoovers interacting, and it wasn't a friendly game of anything.
They play a game of
lots of gunplay.
Oh, that's not very kosher.
No, that was my neighborhood.
It's like The Wire. Like The Wire, they had street code. No violence on Sundays.
Yeah.
It's crazy though, because you see some of those games, and some of those guys used to be superstars in high school, and some of them are still kind of athletic. Like
it's some talent. If I could broadcast, I have a game. I want to say the game was played. I want to say 88 or 89. They had a game at Vets Park. Mm-hmm. Versus 20s, and a couple of the guys were just finished playing JC ball, and you could see the talent. Jericho juice flying everywhere, but you can see the talent. You can see just the skill. It wasn't like dudes that couldn't play football. I mean, dudes was out there running plays. Like the big guys are playing line.
Yeah. And
the guys are playing skill positions. Only problem was there was no quarterback in sight. So you did have like thugged out dudes playing quarterback. I think you had like Reese Cup playing quarterback. And
he was great back in the day.
But then he got heavy.
Yeah.
So when he got heavy, he back there looking like Bruce Walker, rest in peace, playing quarterback. And they tore half his jersey off, so he's playing like naked. and I think Little Dude Dirty was playing safety. It was like the who's who of Long Beach playing football. And, some of the guys really couldn't play. They thought they were tough, and you could tell who can play, who could not play really quickly.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, those games were crazy, man. But they were peaceful.
There was no tripping.
No tripping whatsoever. I mean, you had guys coming from LA going up to Cal Rec, and they sitting up drinking and smoking together, chilling, waiting for the game to start.
That's why I think there is a possibility we could have some peace in the streets, man. If guys would just have dialogue, guys would just go back to why the games were formed in the first place. I just finished watching a documentary, Streets of Compton, with the game.
Yeah.
It just seems like it's just all misunderstandings, man. It's always been misunderstandings.
I just watched the documentary too. It's called Versus, and it was Jeezy versus Gucci Mane. And
I can't believe you as a UCLA grad watch that.
So listen.
I can't believe
No, but it's relevant. They their
Name
beef
4 songs. Name 4 songs. Quick.
go crazy. Guess who's back? Them boys. I don't want. You want me to name any of Gucci Mane stuff? 745.
No, I'm really concerned. You know him.
I don't. I know Jeezy stuff. I happen to retain a couple of one of his titles because it was the Jeezy disc. That's what he opened with. 745.
All right, me and old head Rodney got to converse on the side. Rod, do you know who Jeezy is? And is Jeezy the same person as Young Jock? I thought they were the same person.
That's so disrespectful to Jeezy, but let me let Rodney answer.
You know what? I saw Jeezy on something and realized who he was. Gucci Mane. I can't tell you.
It's not Gucci Mane.
Is it? What is
Gucci
it?
Mane.
Gucci Mane. There you go.
Yeah, like these mains that Anthony and I have.
And I'll be honest with you, no disrespect, but when I heard the first song he played, I said, "How did this dude get a rap deal?"
You know how.
And like I was telling Rod last night, you don't have to have talent anymore.
So
you don't have to have a different sounding voice. You just have to have YouTube followers.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna give you the actual answer to that, and I'm not discounting anything that you said to Rod, but I'm gonna say this. So he came up as an independent and kind of blowing up on YouTube. He's been like he got his start about 20 years ago. So I'm really gonna answer you. From what I understand, he came from Zone 6 in Atlanta. And there's 6 zones, and they're basically precincts, right? And Zone 6, which is East Atlanta, it's very hard for street cats to make it out of there. And he was apparently a real street cat who had a little talent. Some people believed in him. And not only did he put his money into it, but some people put some money behind him. So he went the independent route. And that's how he gained his following, mostly because he came from the streets of Zone 6 and started to make something of himself, and then ultimately made something of himself. So right. that's how that one.
The lyrics sound that way.
Well, you don't need talent. I guess that's one thing you don't need these days.
Well, listen, man, Young Gangster out of Compton, Treetop Pyru, is YG. He's definitely on some nursery rhyme shit. But let's keep it real. Like, come on, man.
I never knew YG stood for Young Gangster.
White brain.
I didn't either.
If you had gang, come on. Man.
I didn't know his name was Young Gangster.
I didn't either. I didn't either.
Y'all think YG is?
You just schooled me to something because I never knew.
I thought it was something real cool. Like, I'm still tripping off Game. His name is Game, like the game. Like, how is your name the Game? What is that?
Game.
What is that? Game. I'm the Game. Like, you ain't the Game. You couldn't even rap when you started. The Game is Triple H from wrestling.
All right, let me say this so I get rid of this screen share. So Thursday, there is more football, although it is all sub 500 football. It's the Mountain West.
Oh.
You got Colorado State at Air Force.
Oh.
1-2 versus 2-2, and New Mexico at Utah State.
Oh.
0-4 versus 0-4. Now, I work in the Mountain West. I'm just not working in the Mountain West, even before my foot broke. So shout out to my guys working those games on tomorrow. Yeah, that's probably that's football. So that's what you have in addition to the NFL.
How you gonna break your foot during football season, bro? What if you'd have been called up for the All Black officiating crew on Monday Night Football? You'd have missed the boat.
If I would have been called up for that, then I would have put a cleat on.
Shot.
100%. Brianna would have understood that. Like, that's an NFL shot. Oh yeah, I'm just gonna suck it up, run and work through the pain.
Out there limping on the boot.
Or just be in the boot. Like I can run in it if I'm getting that NFL shot. Yeah, not passing that up
in the boot. All right, so I'll throw it out to y'all. I'll play host real quick. You guys are professional officials. What does it mean? The significance of Monday Night Football having an all black ref crew?
Huge. Huge.
I believe it's a boys club up there, huh? It's like,
That's something I didn't think I would ever see.
wow.
At least not an all black one. 100%. No, I didn't think I'd see that. That's huge, man.
Now, why would you say it's huge? Because I imagine our Caucasian brothers have a stranglehold on the pecking order in the refereeing profession.
I don't know. My opinion, and like I tell anyone, the NFL is pretty progressive when it comes to officials. You know, you actually can get a shot if they like you. You know, you can be like years ago you couldn't become a black person wasn't white hat. You know, that changed. Now we got several. What AC? How many white hats you say we have now? Quite a few.
Now, white hats, you mean the leader of the crew?
Yeah, the crew chief. And he makes the call. You know, like normally the crew chief, you know, says who he wants on his crew. Or recommends. If there's a boss, you know, they'll say, hey, well, I'd like AC as my back judge, and I'd like Rod as my side judge, or whatever the case. But, you know, to see all of them on the field at one time, it's crazy because, like I wrote on Facebook before, I've had people tell me, like black guys who were crew chiefs at a lower level say, hey, I was filling crew spots, but I don't want to make it an all black crew because I don't want to give the wrong impression. And I'm like, why do we have that type of thinking? And why is it so awkward to see an all black crew on a football field? Because we've been seeing all white crews on football fields for years. And no one ever thinks that it's awkward or that, well, I don't want to give the wrong impression. You know, why do we have those type of thoughts? Like that thinking has to change.
So thanks, Rod. So I'm not going to answer you, Anthony, but I'm going to give you some stats.
All right.
This is season 101 of the NFL.
Wow. First time.
Okay. I'm just giving you stats. This is season 101 of the NFL. Rodney, to answer you, four white hats right now.
Out of how many?
Out of 17. But I believe, let me see, it's 4 a high. Let's see, we have Mike Carey, Jerome Boger, Don Carey, and you know, I think the previous high was 3. So we have 4. And I think this is year 2 of the 4 because Adrian got his last year was Adrian's first year. So we have Ron Torbert, Jerome Boger, who worked at Tampa Bay Rams game, Sean Smith, and Adrian Hill. The cool part for me is, with the exception of Torbert, I've been able to be in camp with those other 3 referees. So I've been able to get information from them as I, you know, move up in the profession or in the vocation of football officiating at a higher level. So that's been awesome dealing with them. Jerome Boger, who was the crew chief for the Tampa Bay Rams game, normally has a crew of 5 black people. It's him plus 4, and then 2 non-black people. So they wound up with 2 substitutes on that crew. And I don't know if they did that on purpose and then celebrated it, or if it just happened that way and then they celebrated it. But what we do know is that they jumped in front of it and definitely celebrated it. You know, Troy Vincent, former Patriot, who is one of the VPs in the NFL, put out
Eagle. He's a former Eagle before Patriot.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Long-time Eagle. Don't start that mess.
Well, if he was a long-time Eagle, then I would see how that would be offensive to you. So my bad. Former Eagle.
Man,
I remember him as an Eagle.
It's bad.
I remember him as an Eagle. Yeah. So former Eagle
Thank you. Good Lord.
put out a statement saying, what it meant and that whole thing. Yeah, I watched the game. I hadn't been watching a lot of NFL lately, but I did watch NFL this weekend. So I didn't just watch that game. Like my mentor was working one of the games on Sunday toward the end of the day. So it was great to see him working like I do every week. But, yeah, Monday night was cool. I think it was just a game ultimately, and that's what we like as officials. It's just a game. And yeah, I thought that they were crisp and clean, though. It was exciting to see them. And I will say this. I can say this. There is one retired official who was not a white hat, but an NFL official who talked about when he came into the league, he wanted to make sure that the league understood that there needed to be at least one person that looked like him for him to room with. But the problem was when he came in, there weren't even enough of them to have one on each crew. Right. So they wouldn't have two on a crew. And so he never could room with people who looked like him early on. Toward the end, they wound up having so much money they didn't room with anyone. But in the beginning, they would have like roommates and stuff, and he just didn't have people that he could relate to, and so it was tough for him. He's one of the pioneers. He retired this offseason. My mentor's mentor retired from the NFL second time. He first retired from the field a few years ago, and then he retired from replay this year also. So they've given a lot of stories about being black in higher level officiating from college on up to the NFL. I'll tell you the biggest takeaway for me, other than the actual monumental feat of 7 black people working an NFL game together. Jerome Boger had a beard, and I've never seen anybody work a football game with facial hair.
That was crazy.
Now I've seen him because in the offseason when we were in camp, he always has a beard. And so it was interesting seeing him out there with the facial hair. And I'm like, well, I mean, Jerome Boger can do what he wants.
And from what I understand, the official who worked the Pittsburgh game the week prior had a beard.
Oh, yeah?
A big beard. Now, I need to go back and take a look and see if that was accurate. But, yeah, I don't know. Well, and who you're referring to is from Long Beach, right? So are we shouting them out, or are we?
Which one? My mentor or my mentor's mentor?
Mentor's mentor.
Oh, yeah, he retired. You can. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because Cobbs knows him.
Okay. Well, Cobbs dropped, so wait for him to come back.
Right. Yeah, but yeah, that's crazy, man. Seeing facial hair.
Yeah, I got excited because I'm like, if I could do that now, I just want to have a goatee, and Brianna would be in heaven because she hates when I shave. And if I could have a goatee for all of my games, man, because she says I look different with no facial hair. So
yeah, I hear the same.
You guys can get us no knowledgeable type of outsiders don't know that kind of thing. You said a couple of good things, that it could have been by happenstance or it could have been deliberate to make it an all-black staff. And then you said to see them with facial hair, like, is it as strict as a fireman where they can't have facial hair, like the Boston Red Sox or whatever however they do things, but how stringent is it as far as your dress code, facial hair and things like that? And if it was by a coincidence or it just happened so, when did they decide to make this a thing? Like, it shouldn't have been a thing if it's, commonplace. And will we see it more often, or is it a one-time thing? Because it seems like the crew chief picks who he likes, just like in television, producers pick who they want to work with for the show. And you don't want to give off the impression, but on my show last night, I mentioned it. I wasn't that impressed by it being an all-black staff. I think it's just like hiring black cops, for a black event. It's great. I like to see it, it's long overdue. We don't have black owners. We don't have black head coaches. We don't have black GMs. We have a long way to go, but it's a step in the right direction. So I didn't want to belittle what I saw, but if it was by accident or was it for just Black Lives Matter optics, I didn't know how to take it because I heard a week prior there's going to be a all black reffing crew on Monday night. I'm like, all right, cool. Why is this a thing now? Why hasn't that happened before? So,
yeah. And that was my biggest point of saying we have to get out of that type of thinking that it looks weird to see that. That we African Americans have been in this country now for a long time, hundreds of years. And we're still seeing first of things in regards of race. And some people will say, no, we don't have a racial problem and, completely dismiss it. But we're in a new century and we're still having a first. That lets you know how short it's been just for us to get the right to even be in the same field, on the same field and work the same jobs as non-whites. It's like I said on Facebook, it's a happy thing and it's a sad thing at the same time. That it took this long.
Right.
I didn't want to rain on anybody's parade because people were excited, but I felt how I felt. And I had to say that, it's sad that this is just now happening.
All right. So I want to respond. So to Anthony. So from a facial hair perspective, the manuals for both football and basketball say you need to be neatly groomed. However, it is well understood that means a mustache or less, and a mustache that doesn't go beyond the top lip. So not a handlebar mustache, a mustache or less. And generally, so I'll leave it at that for facial hair. I've never seen anyone with facial hair other than a mustache in the NFL before Jerome Boger the other day. And I don't, maybe he's done it before, maybe other people have done it. I've never seen it. And then generally at the high school level, people don't adhere to what we're talking about. But at the collegiate level, even at the JC level, you start shaving. Well, not everyone does it at the JC level, but if you have higher aspirations, then you carry yourself like a Division I official, and you dress differently, going to the locker room. You're in business casual. You're taking a carry-on with you, even if you're driving to Vets or whatever. You're Rodney. He's taking the carry-on. He's parking his conversion van down the street because he doesn't want people to see what he's getting out of.
His massage gun in his briefcase.
Man, you already know.
But what's crazy is I've had, especially on the college level, I've had people to get at me about facial hair in the off season, and not during camp. I mean, just a general time where guys are getting together and talking sports. Like, hey, you working a game and what's that on your face?
So that's
what really?
And I haven't experienced that, and that's stupid to me, Anthony, because here's the thing. I'm pretty hardcore when it comes to going to camp. Like when I go to camp, I do shave. It's like I'm in a game. I'm feeling like I'm interviewing. But I'm not shaving more than the first day, first of all, at camp. And then second of all, during a game week, I'm not shaving. I don't care what's happening. I'm not shaving until I would shave the day that I'm flying into the city, though. I'm not going to I'm at that point, I'm not going to show up to the hotel with my beard, if I'm working a game or my goatee. But I wish someone would say something to me in the off season or something what are you talking about? But let me, I want to respond to the rest of the stuff you said. So whether it happened on purpose or by chance is unknown to me. I do think they did it on purpose. And I don't think it was a Black Lives Matter thing. I think it was just an opportunity for, I don't know. Actually, I don't know. Let me not speak on why they did it. But
I can rephrase it. If it wasn't a social justice time in our history, would we have seen that? Like, is it now appropriate and timely that we see something like that right now?
So I do think so. I think we would have seen it this season. And one thing that I am seeing is, while we do have 4 out of 17 white hats that are Black, and I think overall we just have 4 that are minority at this point. I think Ron Rivera. Yeah, once Ron Rivera left, so we have 4, but we are the trajectory is up for Black officials in the NFL right now. This season, 2020, there are more Black officials in the NFL than ever before. So this was a step. Like, think about it. We've never seen 5 Black officials on the same crew, and you have multiple Black officials on every crew. This is the first time in the history for that. Multiple Black officials on every crew and 5 of them on one crew. That's a place we haven't been. So, they do little interchangeable things with crews all the time. Like, for instance, my mentor's crew had the 49ers one week, and the crew chief didn't. Like, he didn't go with the crew because they wanted him specifically to work Monday Night Football with a different crew. So they had another crew chief come off a bye week to work the game with my mentor's crew, while their crew chief worked Monday Night Football one week. So they do interchangeable stuff all the time. And then if you have somebody on the crew that played for a specific team, or their kid played for a team, then they're not going to work those games. So, it happens. But for me, I didn't want anyone to say that I never want us to say this should have happened a long time ago, so we shouldn't be proud of it. And I know that a lot of people do feel that we shouldn't be proud of certain things. Maybe we shouldn't celebrate it because it should have happened a long time ago. But I want us to be proud of certain things. And because the game went off without a hitch, like it should have, then I think that a lot of Trumpians will have a different perspective on certain things. Like, not that I care if they even watch football, but I think they will have a different perspective on certain things.
I heard an interesting take, though. My attorney friend, Everett Glenn out of Long Beach, he commented on my show yesterday and said, employees versus owners, and that it should not be as alarming or shocking, or even people that are Trumpian have an issue with us being employees. They only have an issue with us as owners. Like, we'll see more all-Black officiating crews. We'll see a few more Black head coaches hired. We might even see a few more Black GMs hired, but we will still possibly never see a Black owner in the NFL. And if we do see one, that's when we can say progress is happening. And that was his take on it. So I think that was interesting. He's a lot older than us.
You and I. A lot older than you and I, but not Rodney.
Well, I'm reaching up there with Rodney. I'm getting old, man.
No, Rodney is 100 and whatever you are, not just
Methuselah.
But no,
Carter is much older than all of that.
Shout out to Avery Glenn. I like Avery Glenn's take. And because we see Black minority ownership in Major League Baseball, and we see Black ownership in the NBA, not enough on either front. And we see people making a push to become NFL owners, like Steph Curry when he was pushing with the group in Carolina. I want to see it. I think that there's obviously a conflict of interest right now with Patrick Mahomes, and I think he's going to be around for a while. So hopefully we don't wait for it to be Patrick Mahomes and some ownership group to be the first to be a Black owned NFL franchise. I'm hoping that it's coming. But it is long overdue. And I think that they have a problem. A lot of them have a problem with us no matter what we are, but definitely, especially as owners, because then it means that we're making hiring decisions, right?
That's the difference. That's the difference.
But then there's also the jealousy part where they're like, well, I want to be an independent contractor for the NFL. Like I want to make all that money every Sunday, you know, and they don't. And as far as I know, none of us do on Sundays. But so I think it's kind of all encompassing for them. But yeah, I definitely like Avery Glenn's take, and I do agree with
Just
it.
imagine a black owner if he owned the Atlanta Falcons. Just imagine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just imagine how turned up Atlanta would be. Or the Benson family sells the Saints to a black family. You have the Ninth Ward down there in Louisiana turned up every Sunday. And the House of Blues turned up. I mean, the whole Bourbon Street, Airline Holiday, all those places be turned up. I mean, it's time, man. It's time for some flavor in that room so we can hear all voices. I believe is it Armenian or Middle Eastern of descent owner of the Carolina Panthers. That's the closest thing we got. So
yeah,
waiting to see, man. It's just equality. It's like if we're really gonna be land of the free, home of the brave, it's about equality, and it should not even be a boys club trying to keep people out. It's like when Bill Cosby tried to buy NBC. They're like, oh, this guy's going way too far. Let's make sure he gets locked up for the rest of his life so he causes no more trouble.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was more proud watching the game, knowing that they did a really awesome job. I was more proud of that because they had some really funky plays in that game. Like I've never seen a double pass on a play. I've seen a pass go forward and it hits the back of somebody's helmet or something. And the guy picks it up and starts running. You know, that kind of. But like. And I listened to a lot of talk radio, and someone called in and said, hey, I'm a fantasy player, and they gave Tom Brady a completion on that play. So yeah. Dean Blandino called in and said, well,
yeah, because the penalty
right, because the penalty declined, the play happened. You know, like, so he didn't get a completion to himself, even though it said that on the fantasy stats. If you pulled up your fantasy stats, it said Tom Brady completed the pass to Tom Brady, then completed the pass to Mike Evans, but the completion to Mike Evans actually counted. And that was a crazy play, you know, and I kept thinking the whole time, like, what's going to happen significantly in this game where white fans say, you know, see, this is why. This is why.
He was waiting for that.
They got that play completely wrong.
Okay, what about the Tom Brady incomplete in the end zone where he threw with an empty hand? They called it an incomplete pass. When you guys saw that initially, you guys are professional refs. I know you see the game differently. I watch movies differently because I'm an editor. I know you guys watch the game differently. What did you guys see? See that play? Did you see that play? The last
in the end zone. It was gonna. It would have been a safety. You know what? The rule is if his hand comes forward at all, it's a forward pass. And his hand came forward, but then his arm got hit. So according to the rule, it was an incomplete pass.
Hey, what is that rule called, Rod? Is that the tuck rule?
The Raiders
used to be. Come on now, don't do it so deep.
I was saying,
it's Thanksgiving. I'm in a good mood, you know.
Mookie Betts, 3-0
I got the wire queued up. Don't do me like that. But you know, slow and I tell anybody, and AC, you know, will say the same thing. In slow mo, things look completely different.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like the Dave Chappelle skit where he says,
everything looks
this
good.
is how I look in the club. This is how I look in slow motion. Like, you know, he looks super cool. It's like that in sports, and we don't get slow motion on the field. So someone has some cat eyes to see that hand go forward just before he gets hit to the point where they couldn't rule against it. You know, it's like it is what it is.
Can I ask you guys real quick before you move on from refs? I'd like to ask the refs stuff that I probably won't get asked or able to get cleared up for me. The immaculate reception. Was the immaculate reception an incompletion because it hit somebody? What's the rule? Why do people still think it was not a catch? I thought he caught the ball clean. What's wrong with that whole play? Why did they say that Franco's catch and touchdown was invalid?
And I know you're Mr. Positive. I get it. I am too. But can they still make a run?
I need to see the play again. I can't even remember how it went. I
think the ball bounced off the back of a player.
Yeah.
And he caught it in the air and scored. But the ball never hit the ground. But I believe there might have been a rule that if it I couldn't have just been because it hit a player, because a pass breakup gets caught, it's still a catch.
Yeah.
I think because it hit a Pittsburgh player, maybe. I forgot how it went, but it's still being debated as whether it was a catch or not. So I don't know. If you don't have it in your mind, then don't worry about it. I'll ask you something else. Was Dez Bryant's a catch? Dez Bryant advanced that ball, and the ball came out because he reached for the pylon. I don't believe this rule that you have to complete the catch through the fall to make it a completion. If we're playing pickup football at the park and I catch the ball and I reach out for the goal line and it comes out, that's tough. That's touchdown. You know, it's a catch. You actually caught the ball and moved it. You caught the ball and did something with it. You have the ball. How is it not a catch if I put it down on the ground and it comes out? The idea is that I have the ball in my possession and I advance it in any way. If I reach out and it comes out, it's a fumble. I don't understand that.
So, yeah. So interesting term you used, possession. So it's all about how possession is defined and interpreted. So is this something from yesterday or something from when he was on the Cowboys?
In general, now that as a former receiver, I know when I've caught the ball. Like I got an interception one time at UCLA. I got an interception. We both fell. I raised it up to celebrate, but it was already an interception because I caught it on the ground. I caught it, and I was so happy I showed it, but it flew out of my hand.
Okay.
Because in today's standards, it might have been deemed we can't tell if he caught it or not because he put it up so fast.
No, you said you guys went down, right?
Well, we were already diving for it, and I got it, and I kind of turned on it so it didn't hit the ground.
Right.
But as soon as I secured it, I showed it, and it flew out of my hand.
Yeah.
And I ran celebrating. But I'm wondering if things like that are bang bang plays, and there's no replay back in those days, but it's bang bang.
So you're the original
DeSean.
So
you're the original DeSean Jackson. Okay, now it makes sense.
No, DeSean Jackson is a whole nother story. But I mean, like, just the idea, if by the naked eye it's a catch, but the replay shows you never had true possession because maybe it's moving around and it's not secure, but you have it. Like, even when you catch a ball off the fingertips, you still ain't got it yet, but you got it. And it's just a real fine line. Like I said, I would like to go back to just eye test. The replay is messing the game up, in my opinion. I like you guys make a call and stick with it. What is possession to you guys?
You know what? I'm gonna be brief because I think AC probably he's better at rules defining than much better than I am. I just know when I see something wrong, that's what it is.
That's what it is.
'Cause sometimes those rule books look like Mandarin to me, so I'm visual. I have to actually see the play. But who AC was referring to earlier, the man who retired from the NFL twice, and Cobb, you know him, is Chuck Stewart. Mm-hmm. And he's the godfather of officiating, as far as I'm concerned, when it comes to football. And he schooled me for like 45 minutes on that very thing. Because initially, I'm like, Mr. Stewart. You know, like some people still call him Chuck. I still call him Mr. Stewart. I'm like, Mr. Stewart, why is that not a catch? And he's like, Rodney, is he upright or is he going to the ground? And I said, well, he looks like he's upright. He's like, look at it again. He hit rewind like 30 times until it started to sink in what he was actually talking about. And that was all the difference I needed. And I think for fans, if they understood that aspect of it, they would understand and not feel like, oh man, my team got robbed because that's a catch. You know, so I'm gonna let AC handle the rules interpretation and break it down.
Well, he just posted it in the chat, and I'm getting an idea. Okay. And if I come couple that with what you just said, it now makes a lot more sense in that our idea of a catch throughout our history of our lives playing a sport, we have to kind of dismiss that because in actuality, if you look at it closer, it isn't a catch if you never have control of it through these activities that would deem a catch. So what you did at Kings Park in 1987
or what you did in Mecca in the year 7, yeah, none of that stuff counts, right? None of that stuff counts. So yeah, and that's why I was glad that you said possession, because we have to first define possession and then we can get to the whole, is it a catch thing? And I think that, they right before that Calvin, what was his name? Calvin Johnson. Right before that Calvin Johnson play, that year, they'd really buckled down on player possession as it pertained to catch, no catch. And he was the first big name to wind up with an incomplete pass on something that would have been a completed pass the year right prior to that. And then, it's been clearly defined ever since then. So in the way that you describe your interception, and I'm sure I saw your interception, but I don't remember it. But the way that you describe it, it would still be an interception because you, from what I understand, firmly grasped it by holding it or controlling it while you were on the ground, and then you tried to show it. Yeah. So it's much easier to have a catch when you're already, on the ground than when you're like going to the ground. Right. Because then that's that whole thing. When you're going to the ground with contact, you must maintain possession all the way through. Now, if they then knock it out of your hand, that doesn't count. Like you still get the completion. You possessed it before they knocked it out, and you're down now, so there wouldn't be a fumble or whatever else it might be. So yeah, you would be good, but it's very important to. And here's the thing: the Immaculate Reception. I'm about to watch it right now and give you what I think. But there are certain things that I want to go back and watch now that I am an official, and I've been an official for a while now. This is my 13th season, but certain things that I thought were crap, like the pass interference call against Miami for Ohio State when Miami was trying to go back to back.
Yeah, that was dirty.
I'm a Miami fan.
You don't call that.
But I need to go back and watch that, and I still won't say anything because now I'm an official. But I would at least know if I like that or not. And
hard call to make, man. That was a hard call to make.
And I can't tell you right now because I have to go back and look at it. But I'm gonna look at this Immaculate Reception and see.
But this definition, AC, does not help me with the Dez Bryant incompletion.
Well, he was going to the ground,
but he had it. And he had control with one hand, and he reached it to the pylon as he was making a football move. So this saying controlling it while contacting the ground. So that's why I was confused. Like, why is that not a catch? He caught the ball, extended it, and then the ground caused the ball to come out, or the ball was coming out before he reached the pylon. Is that what it was?
So what did they call it? Incomplete or a fumble or what?
Incomplete. He caught the rock, extended it for the pylon, and I think it started slipping out of his hand before he got to the pylon. and
Yeah.
it ended up being a safety.
And it's not a simple thing, because then you start to, after you figure out the possession part and whether they are upright or going to the ground, you have to figure out, well, what's the football move? You know, that I think they've tried to narrow that down over the last few years to make it a little more clearer, because it's like, okay, is a football move just because he, let's say somebody gets the ball, they appear to have it, but as soon as they turn, and Cobbs, you probably had plays like this where as soon as that receiver catches the ball
Bang bang.
and he turns, bam,
Knock the
and then
ball out.
everybody's hollering fumble,
But he never got it.
and we were probably on the field saying incomplete. Like he didn't make a real move. He turned his body, but he didn't take any steps or do anything to say, you know what, that's a move, that's a completed catch. He had firm possession, and he got hit and fumbled. It's so they're starting to tighten this stuff up.
I know there was a time, as AC looks at the Immaculate Reception and gives us his prognosis, that if you stop the ball from spinning, like if there's a rock coming and you're a receiver and that ball's coming straight at you, and you, with your two hands, stop the ball from spinning and moving forward, and even if you don't tuck it, but you've taken the ball out of the air and you caused it to come to your pocket, and you get hit in the same moment, a bang bang play, you caught the ball, you just didn't get a chance to turn around and do anything with it. So I know the new rules are football move, but there are bang bang plays where there's no chance for a football move, but you stopped the ball from going that way. Like you figure Larry Fitzgerald or DeAndre Hopkins, who have these big strong hands, they can stop a ball from spinning with one hand and cup it and begin the process of putting it in their pocket. But they've caught the ball. It's just a matter of them, will they have enough time to do a football move? And it's been deemed now incomplete pass, and we're all okay with it. But I'm just like, will we ever get to a point where we get some love for those who catch passes in the room? Like, who makes the decision what a catch is? Do they ask the Hall of Fame receivers to come in there and get their opinion on things? Or how is that rule made? Like, who decides what a catch is when they've never played before? I'm not sure if they played before. I know you guys have played probably high school, maybe college. I know there were some guys that played in the NFL that are officials. Do they get any say on how these rules are made?
Well, so let me say this: if you were unsure, let's just say that Troy Vincent would be one of those people, right? We know he played. So yes, they do have plenty of former players that are part of the rules making process. Believe it or not, the officials are not a part of that conversation
At all.
They're not part of the rules committee, if you will. So
coaches, right? Coaches and GMs and stuff.
Yeah, coaches, GMs, and I think that a piece of the NFLPA also is involved in that. So looking back on
this is great stuff, man. I'm up here getting educated. I'm being real selfish today on the podcast. I mean, all my questions answered by these two professional refs. So
no, yeah,
y'all in trouble, man.
So looking at Franco Harris, yeah, it looks like a catch to me. I would imagine Rodney probably wants it ruled incomplete at this point because Rodney. But yeah, it looks.
It was versus Raiders, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, immaculate reception, tuck rule.
Yeah, it was incomplete.
It's been a tough.
And it's kept me from saying, hey, we went to the Super Bowl whenever, because
y'all went down there and lost anyway.
That fumble didn't. It was a fumble. Forget a tuck rule.
Brady Woodson tuck rule.
Nah, but just piggybacking off what AC said, I do try to go back and look at certain things to see, like even with basketball, like the Jordan rules. I go back and I look at video and I'm like, what these Shaq is just a whole other thing. I mean, like
How do you appreciate Shaq?
when I think about that, I'm like, Shaq probably should have fouled out a team, like just on an entry pass. On things, he was so big and so strong that I've never seen anything like that. And it amazes me all the time when we talk about the GOAT. And I said, okay, some people claim that this person is the GOAT, that person is the GOAT. But when I stop and think about it in my mind, I'm like, who would you, if you were a GM and you had the first pick of any player that you could get, who would you start that team off with? And I'm like, there is no answer for a healthy prime Shaq. Except Mookie. Mookie caught him in the post. Because Mookie could front him and jump up there and get the entry pass and be out.
Mookie Betts, man. Mookie, you thought Mike Mulrow was dead eye. Mookie Betts, baby.
Yeah.
All right. Hey,
the Pistons, they played a lot of great defense, and they weren't it wasn't dirty stuff. Like, they rotated great. They did what was allowed within the rules. I'll say it that way. I'm not saying that
ref, you set the tone early though as a ref, don't you? But what contact is going to be deemed a foul on a guy like Shaq?
And that's another thing, because depending on whose crew you have, some people call things tighter than others. Certain people have different philosophies than others, and like AC was working college before me, so I didn't know what to expect when I started working college basketball. And when you go to these camps, no one tells you anything because everyone's trying to get hired. You got probably, 3 or 4 different dates of camps, and you got 50 or 60 people at each one trying to gain. They probably hiring 4 or 5 people. They're getting your money. I mean, like football camps are anywhere from AC, like 600 all the way up to
1,500. Yeah.
And basketball is like, if you just a starting off person doing regular rec ball and park stuff, you may go to a little day camp for $50 and it may go all the way up to 500 or more. And you pay that out of pocket. You pay that money. You pay your expenses, your hotel, your rental car to get around. It's up to you to get your butt up and make sure that you on the court or in the classroom when you're supposed to be. All of that, everything is on you.
I imagine if you don't go to camp, you don't get the same love. Like, did you go to so-and-so camp? Did you attend these trainings? You no longer put your name in the hat for these jobs.
And depending on whose camp you go to, different people like different things. So you have to realize where you are and what they want. And that's what you don't know going in. Now, if they had an eye on you before you got there, or someone was already plugging you, then it may be a little different. Well, he didn't know that we don't like 3 seconds being called, so we'll let that slide on him, but we're going to pull him to the side and tell him, hey, look, don't you blow 3 seconds no more, and make sure he knows, and then they can work around the other stuff. But if you're just in there on your own, and you don't know anybody and you're just trying to land a job doing college athletics, no one's going to say, well, hey, man, the boss don't like you running on the court. You got to be running when you're on the sideline. You got to be basically out of bounds when you're coming down the floor. I mean, no one's going to tell you that unless you're in really tight with somebody who already works for that person. So it's a difficult process just to get hired.
I can't imagine, man.
And then to stay hired, because especially with with high level college sports, like something that we feel like might be small to us could get you fired.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll tell you this. Social media has gotten a lot of people fired and not hired. The way So man, I had a question about right, I can't even do it right now. Hey, shout out to Shy Montana. Thank you, Shy. We appreciate you. Keep doing what you're doing. Thank you for calling us amazing. Here, Rod, this is what Shy Montana said on YouTube. Bam. And then, of course, shout out to David Smoot. I'm not gonna catch you up at what is it called? At Antelope Valley College because I have a broken foot. Shout out to Dietrich Ellis.
Yep. Thank you, Shy.
So yeah, I had something. I can't even remember what it was. Oh, he's back. All right.
Yeah, I was I thought it was AAA. It was some telemarketer.
Oh, no doubt. So my question is for Rodney. Thank you for that insight. But back when Jerry Rice was having those amazing workouts, running those hills and stuff, when you and Vince Evans were hanging out, were you guys at all inspired by those workouts?
Hey man, all we could do was watch you and Bear Bryant in the off season, and
so I'm Sylvester Cruz. I'm the one black person with Bear Bryant.
Hey, man, you led the way. You led the way.
So here's all right. So I got a question. Wait, what was the last thing you were saying, Anthony? Because I had a comment actually.
Well, I don't know, but I'm just trying to get all this good information from you refs. When did the gather become a thing with James Harden and these double step back with the gather and the
I still don't
understand. I have the perfect answer for you.
Please help me.
Neither Rodney nor I work the NBA.
No. They got a whole nother rule book, and I will never understand it, and I don't attempt to.
The gather begins on his second step.
So we use that rule book when we work pro-am, and it's different like working some pro-am than it is when you're working the Drew. Because when you're working the Drew, then you really are working with a lot of NBA players, so you really have to adopt that mindset that traveling is 5 steps, but you explain it by saying the gather starts on the 3rd step, or the gather starts after he already scored. You know, whatever it may be. Listen, I'm in a basketball officiating mastermind group, and there are some NBA officials in there who give us great information. But luckily, when we're talking plays, they always say, "How would you officiate this at the level that you work?" So then we talk through it for me, women's college basketball. Even though it's an NBA play, or we'll do the opposite. We'll be looking at one of my plays, but Eric Lewis will talk about what he's doing versus what I'm doing. Or Rodney Mott will talk about what he's doing versus what I'm doing. So you get great insight, but I don't pretend to understand any of that. Mm-hmm. But I will say this. I want to respond to your Desmond Journeys Bryant.
Des Bryant. The catch.
Des Bryant. So because we know that you must possess and you must control to possess, and possession can't happen until you continue to control it when you're going to the ground. When you look at whatever he was doing in the air, he was trying to secure it and hadn't quite secured it when he hit the ground. Even if you say, oh, you can't see me. Even if you say he was he was reaching forward with that forearm, it had gone from 2 hands to that 1 hand and wasn't quite secure. So he can't. Here's the thing: you can't reach if you're going to lose it when you haven't fully controlled it while going to the ground, and that's the problem there. And if he doesn't, here's the thing: the reach isn't going to benefit him anyway because he was already touched. And so as soon as he contacted the ground, he would have been down. So if he would have done better to just control it, then he would have been down at the 1 where that official had him. But when you really look at it, he didn't ever control it. So if you say it was him reaching that forearm forward, he's reaching the forearm forward as he's contacting the ground and never did fully control it. So once he does hit the ground, it just pops out, and that's why. And it also hit the ground at that point. So that's why it wound up being an incomplete pass and not a completed pass. But to your point, that's in contrast to what we did growing up and what Rodney and the other elders were thinking about when they created football. That's not what they had in mind.
When they had the little rascals football, with the rubber tube in the back.
Yeah, when they really used actual pigs to create football.
That's why, and that's what my whole thing was. Because if you've ever caught a football, and we've all caught a ball,
yeah,
even if you catch it, and like Mookie Betts, let's go back to your boy Mookie. Mookie Betts will catch a ball with his glove. He'll toss it to his throwing hand. It's almost a little toss. Like if you've ever played catch with a baseball and a mitt, you catch the ball and you toss it to your other hand. If you catch the ball and toss it to your other hand and you drop it, no catch. And that's like, but he caught the ball. But in the exchange from the mitt to his hand, it falls, no catch. But he caught it. That's why it's hard for me, like catching a football, and as I go to tuck it, I drop it, no catch. I caught the ball. I stopped the ball from moving. I have it. I'm getting ready to do something with it. I have it. That's possession to me. And I know it's not by the rules, but it's hard to, that feeling of catching the ball, taking your mind off of it and dropping it. So it's just a matter of, you have to have it for a second. You have to have it for a football move. You have to have it throughout. The falling to the ground part is what I had to get used to seeing. And it's hard for me to tell a receiver that dove for a ball, has it in his fingertips, goes to bring it in, and he can't secure it through the fall. That's kind of hard, but I get it. I just don't like it.
And I feel you on that. So I have a comment and then a question. So the comment is, I feel you on that, but just know that this era of football player, the football players that are playing now, have seen that their entire careers. Like they know at this point. So it's actually easy to coach them through it because they don't have to unlearn anything. But the question I have is for Cecil. Hey, Cecil, what do you and your guys think about what a catch has become, since this is not how you intended the rule in the first place?
See, me and Bart Starr had a conversation.
I've honestly thought that there are a lot of rules put in place, not, how should I say this? They're put in place just to keep the nonsense out the game. And it probably benefits us, you know, on the field or on the court or whatever we're doing. I'm sure that there are rules put in place to help us get an understanding of what we're going to allow and what we're not.
What I need from you is understanding.
You know, because, I mean, like, if let's just say, you know, how you explained it about stopping the spin and, you know, keeping it from going forward. I mean, just even looking at basketball, these players get slicker and slicker and slicker every year. And they do something different to say, oh, they won't let us do that. I'll do this. It's almost like lifelong criminals. Like they just get better at
being slick.
trying to be slick and trick refs into, you know, getting over. And I know people get mad and say, oh, these refs, but, you know, I'm like, well, be a ref and try to guard against that stuff while actually managing the game itself. I mean, like, you're just not managing the game itself anymore. You're trying to weed through the trickery, you know. And sometimes you can get away with the trickery, but you can't get mad when it doesn't go your way.
Yeah.
And I think some people get mad because it's like, well, they do that. You know, well, And AC and I have worked together a million times, and we've had coaches, come at us like, "Oh, well, the refs from the other night, they, well, they
We were
weren't
doing that all season. Ain't nobody said nothing to us.
Yeah.
I told you 2 weeks ago. I said something then.
You must be with the other team. They from the other team. Don't worry, y'all. They from the other team. They're on the payroll.
And that's and just thinking about that is something that refs need to. And I put this on Facebook also a week ago. We as I was describing police officers, like I see so much in common with officials and police officers. And I'm like, the main thing that both sides do wrong to get everyone in trouble is they don't go by the mechanics book. Like AC and I are sticklers about the mechanics book. Don't care what you're talking about. What does this book actually tell us to do? You're not going to just do your own thing when you're working on a crew with us. If the crew says, hey, these people need to be 25 feet off line of scrimmage, be 25. Or if you need to be 22 to get a better look because it's going to help the whole situation. There are certain things you could do to kind of tweak it a little bit, but like I've talked to officers about the same thing. I'm like, what are officers supposed to do when they pull you over? What exactly are they supposed to do? They're supposed to ask for your identification. They're supposed to tell you the reason they pulled you over. Sometimes they just ask for your identification, don't tell you nothing. You're just sitting there guessing. And then they come back, you know what, you're free to go. Well, what you pull me over for? Sir, go ahead, have a nice day. Well, how am I supposed to have a nice day after this? Like you didn't do me a favor by pulling me over and letting me go, but go by the mechanics book and do exactly what you're supposed to do. Give me information. And it's the same with officials. There are officials who don't go by the mechanics book. They just make their own thing up as they go along.
Yep.
And then that sheds a bad light on all of us because then it looks like we're inconsistent and we're not all doing the same thing.
Yep. Thank you once again. Hey, Dietrich, you see this? The guys get a Super Bowl and they get super excited, and we're sitting on 5, right, Dietrich? So check this out. Yeah, he threw me off with that one. Hey, this is the Collective Podcast, episode 38. We're live. Thank you for tuning in on Facebook, on YouTube, on LinkedIn. Thank you for listening on Spotify, on Anchor, on wherever you're listening. I am AC from LA. The guy to my left, but I guess right on the screen is Rodney. And then below us is our very special guest host, Anthony Cobb. You might as well just come on, full time. He's here.
Yeah. He's a first round draft pick.
Yeah. And he is. So I'm gonna let Anthony tell you later what he does, but he's got AC Sports Live, which he does by himself. He's got 1585, which he does with Mac, and then he's got an as yet untitled podcast with me that has something to do with
AC, man.
And AC. So we'll check that out later. But
the Always Cool Show, the AC.
Yeah, there you go. The Always Cool Show. So Dietrich was letting us know one of the things that coaches say. Yeah, we've been doing this all year. Exactly. Yep. That's what they say. That's what they say.
Doing this all year. Hey, y'all gonna come make the boy tuck his shirt in. The boy been playing all year without his shirt tucked in. Now you want to mess up his game and his swag.
Yeah.
Right. So I know what I wanted to say. So I used to work, back when there was no pandemic, I would work the Dallas Cowboys training camp out in Oxnard, California. And I've only been cursed out one time on the field in my entire career at any level.
Do tell.
And I was cursed out by your boy, Mr. Drea. I don't even know his name, but Mr. Drea, whoever Drea is married to.
I don't think he's in the league anymore.
Scandrick. He actually cursed me out on the field. And
Orlando Scandrick?
Yeah, it was
you got
training camp.
At least get cussed out by Darren Woodson or somebody like that. Like you get
A
cussed
lost
out.
out.
The real ones are not gonna curse me out. It's
The bus.
Orlando Scandrick who's gonna curse me out.
Yeah, fake Longest product. Yeah.
So all right, what's your buddy's name, Rodney? Because I know you and Anthony grew up with him, and I'm not joking. Who's the guy at Poly that just had the problem with me on the basketball court for just I never did anything to him. What's that dude's name? Sherman? Is that his name?
Sharif.
What was it about Sharif? Why did Sharif just have he said I had it out for him, but he just I didn't, dude. I'm just working the game and I work your game, even though this is only high school. I work your game like I work all these other games. You were
the same. You got the splash contrast. He was the other yellow guy in the room. Yeah, had a colorism problem. Like I want to be the only splash brother in here, and here you come.
Man,
that might have been it.
Well, listen, I worked consistently. That's the thing. What you're gonna get from me on one side of the court is what you can get from me on the other side of the court. I work the same. I work hard for both teams. I work hard for the players. I work hard for the coaches, and it was just something. You don't want to ref
no poly game. You don't want to ref a poly game ever. Football, basketball, anything. Them parents. I seen a parent cuss the referee. It was Poly versus Etiwanda, and I ain't never seen a group of parents go at the referees so hard in my life. I felt bad for the refs. They were like, your integrity is in question. And I was like, oh. She's gonna go like political on this thing. She's gonna get real lawyerish on us. Yeah, well, I had a game. So I worked a lot of Poly Milliken boys and girls games, right? There was one boys game in particular where I thought I was actually not gonna make it home. It was at Milliken, and
I came to that one.
I thought I was gonna get shot, but I was ready because I put my stuff in my car.
What you mean you was ready? What you mean you was ready to run?
No. I was just, if I was going down, I was going down. He wasn't gonna follow me home. He wasn't gonna shoot in my car. He was just gonna shoot at me. So whoever he was, he had a lot to say in the gym. And Milliken lost a close one, but it wasn't our fault. Our faults. So this dude is still chirping as I'm going to my car, and he's saying something. I'm like, okay, no matter what, I'm just me to him. No matter what, I'm still a man. So we're gonna do what we're gonna do. That was a high school basketball game. You're still talking. So clearly there are things going on in your head, in your life, that you probably need to work out that have nothing to do with me. But if something's going to happen, let it happen. So I put my carry-on in my car, took my jacket off, put it in the car, took a couple steps toward him, and he's walking toward me. And here comes Chris Francis. Chris comes out.
Compton's finest.
AC, you can't put it all on the line for this dude. Now, mind you, this dude is riding for Chris, but Chris knows. And mind you, when Chris is the voice of reason in the parking lot, you know that the world is upside down. Chris is stopping the violence.
I hope Chris is seeing this.
Oh man! Somebody tell Chris to get on. I
love Chris Francis.
I love Chris. Shout out to Coach Francis. I love him, and he stopped me from going toward the dude that was coming for me, and he knew him, so he told him to get on out of there. But that day, I was ready. I was not hopping in my car and driving away. I was hoping that it would just be a fight. I was hoping he didn't have heat. But if he did, then I was ready to risk it all.
Chris Francis told you don't fight in the parking lot. That's like
yes.
That's like this is the appropriate time to fight.
Hilarious. That is hilarious.
Yes.
But
yeah.
You know what's a trip is, AC Cobbs. Growing up, and you get those rivalries with Modern Day and with Mission Viejo wasn't a rival for Poly. That they just came along recently. But Modern Day and Servite and some of these other teams that Poly has had rivalries with from back in the day. I used to think like all other Poly fans, like, man, they out to get us. These refs don't like us. They don't give Poly any calls, this or that and the other. And then once I started officiating and going different areas and seeing the way they officiate versus the way, like different areas on the high school level officiate different ways. I realize that now. And I see a game like in the Orange County area where, maybe they don't play the skill level is up there and they play hard, but maybe what we would let go in the Moore League, they wouldn't let go.
Yeah.
And so, their officiating philosophy is completely different. And they would probably be more prone to call a pass interference on certain plays that we may say, hey, you know what, they're hand fighting, let that go. Or a personal foul on something that we may say, you know what, that was a good hit, let that go. So when I look back at it, I'm like, they were just doing what they were probably taught,
Well, let me stop you, Rodney. I'm gonna say this, man. This is probably the most educational podcast I've ever heard, because just with that right there being said, always being named, always being tabbed, undisciplined. I think what you just said might be the Pandora's box to us getting back on top, and that the coaches. I even talked to the head coach last week at the funeral. That I was thinking about getting back into it. It's the coach's job to prepare the kids for different types of officiating. Like just going in knowing, if you watch film on the opposition, you should watch film on the actual crew of officials, because that way you can appease those officials. Right. And the kids won't be at a disadvantage, because I believe when we played De La Salle back in 2001, I was coaching, and it looked like they had I think the ref crew came from CIF northern section. It was some kind of neutral reffing crew. Mm-hmm. And they officiated differently than the southern section ref, because they were calling the things that we weren't accustomed to. And it wasn't, out of the rule book. It's just our kids weren't called for those same type of plays. And what you just said, man, it might be the reason why Poly can't beat Mission Viejo, Modern Day, and Bosco these days, because we don't teach the kids to be aware of what they're going to come into. They all just want to throw their hands up and say, Coach, that's what we've been doing all year. Coach. Right. What's the difference? Coach, why they call that? If the coach were prepared, like Bill Belichick prepares, like every single detail is covered in practice, it won't be a big deal. They won't be at a disadvantage going against these teams that will capitalize off what they know, because this is what Poly does. We're going to have them do this. And if you just get in their face, they're going to retaliate, and they're going to get the flag. We're going to do these things and make sure that they're, offside. All those little things.
Definitely. Yeah.
Really help in the flow and the feel of a game. So thank you, Rodney Saucier, a.k.a. Lucius Leftwood, for opening up that idea that the officiating does change depending on the area, depending on the crew. It's different, man. And that says a lot, because you hear the fans change. Like, last week they didn't call that. Last week was Compton versus Poly. This week it's Mother Day versus Poly. 2 different games, man.
Right.
So that's big time. Man. I appreciate it.
And you know what? Just to add to that, there are bad officials. That's for sure. There are officials that are not that good, and sometimes they get put on games at the high school level. Not so much the college level, but definitely on the high school level, you may have somebody who they're trying to just quote unquote break in or give a shot to, put on a kind of large game that's too much for them, and they just figure, well, the other veteran guys with this person will help them out. They'll cover for them. And that's not always the case. You know, sometimes you can cover for people, and sometimes you just got to let them eat it and deal with those coaches and fans. And there's nothing as officials we can do about it because we don't call the shots on who works with. You know, that's up to a signer, and a signer need to really know who their officials are and what kind of skill they have. And I think that's a job in itself because some of the signers just assign games and say, "Oh, Cobbs is not on his regular job tonight. I got a game with 7 that I need to fill. We'll put Cobbs in that game." And that might be a game that is totally too small for you because you worked at a higher level for years, and it's like, you know, you on this game with these two teams that can barely play. And then there might be somebody else open, and they say, "Oh, well, we're going to put Mike on this game." Now, Mike might be only in his 3rd year being put on a game between two powerhouses where he hasn't experienced the magnitude of things and what comes with it. You know, because if it's 2 powerhouse teams, of course, you want them to play as much as possible. You don't want to be penalized with a little tiny stuff. You know, because normally they're stronger. They can play through different things and they can go. So you want them to just keep moving and have a flow. And all that stuff is not considered, you know, by just people who watch the game. They don't understand that.
Yeah, we lost Anthony, so he's going to miss a bit of that education. Hey, I dropped off because I closed the wrong window. I was trying to close out Des Bryant and wound up just closing myself out completely, and then I had to log back in. So sorry about that. No, but for those watching and those listening, yeah, straight up. And then the other thing, and I remind me to say this to Anthony because this is the thought I lost earlier. It also matters what happens at the beginning of a game in a particular setting. That could shape how we're going to call a game. So when you guys were talking about officiating Shaquille O'Neal, I never have officiated Shaquille O'Neal, but if there's no early contact from either side, or there's nothing that you have to call that early, then you might wind up with nobody being in foul trouble. But if you wind up having to call some kind of foul on Shaquille that you just couldn't help but call because the contact was just too severe, then you're going to wind up having a quick trigger on anybody that makes contact with Shaquille, because you gotta, and it's not about a makeup call. It's not about evening things out. What it's really about is what is the game dictating you make illegal contact on a given night, because it's always your judgment and it's the crew's judgment, and you like for the teams to quote unquote set the pace. You like for them to set the flow of the game, and you want to stay out of the way, but you don't let illegal contact go. It's just that there's a higher threshold for contact at times before it is deemed illegal. But most sensible coaches only ask that you be consistent throughout. The problem comes in when you have coaches who are not sane or sensible, and they just fly off the handle as soon as you call anything that goes against them, and they don't wait to see if you're going to be consistent. And then you don't have a chance to show them, and you might even wind up shipping them because of, the way that they reacted. So
yeah, agreed. And Poly is not always the easiest team to deal with. I mean, you remember that game where we had them against Wilson, when the mayor came to the game and you were the white hat. They had to do little introductions and all that kind of stuff. And that whole first half, Poly played terrible. If you can remember that game.
Mhm.
And you remember Pierce was in the booth. And then he comes down the field ranting and raving. How you guys gonna call this? And why you throw a flag for that? And da, 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 da. And I'm like, Wilson's running back is giving you guys the business. Like, you know, don't fuss at us because your team is not playing hard. Like, do what you need to do to motivate them to play and put this team away if you're supposed to put them away.
And see, that's one thing about Rodney that you guys should know when it comes to like our styles and how they differ. Because Rodney, I think it was because he saw so much infighting between Cain and Abel, you know, his first two kids. He lets that translate over to his grandfatherly demeanor on the football field and on the court. So Rodney will not only officiate, but he will parent your kid. He will coach your kid. He is going to like talk them through what they can do to fix something. He's going to have an actual conversation with a coach about. And for me, I was always taught that less is more. And so I will answer your question and I will, you know, give you an explanation, but I'm not going to help you fix it. You can hire me as a consultant. And if you know, paying enough, then I will come off the field or come off the court. But I'm not doing all of that. But, you know, Rodney will, and it makes Rodney who he is. That's just too much for me. But
and there are levels to that because I'll do it on a high school level. I won't do it on a college level where you should know.
Yeah.
You know, but if I'm doing some kind of low level, whatever I can do to help them score and keep me from blowing my whistle, I'll help them do it. You know,
and the funny part
that even has levels because it depends on how they come at you. You know, you want young men to come at you like a young man. You don't want them, hey ref, you know, all that other stuff that they've learned and picked up somewhere else. So I school them on more things like that. Like, hey, if you want to be heard, you have to figure out a better way to communicate with officials and know who to talk to and know how to get your question answered. But don't come yelling like you know we equals because we're not equals.
Right.
And the coaches, same thing. Hey, you're not getting ready to just start barking and yelling all over the place like you crazy. We didn't start off the game like that in pregame introductions. We're gonna end it the same way we started, or we just won't talk.
And so by contrast, for me, I got to a point in high school where it was like, you know, I reached Division I in football and basketball, and I got to the highest level you could, or I'm at the highest level you can be at in lacrosse in California also. So for me, it became, I still love all three of these sports that I officiate. Yeah, I would still do high school. But then when it got to a point where I was being unduly questioned by certain high school coaches who were lifelong high school coaches or who hadn't worked at a higher level yet, even if they played, coaching at a different level is different. And dealing with officials at a different level is different. So I got to a point where it was, I don't feel appreciated.
Right.
But my crew, yeah, but I don't feel appreciated by certain high school football coaches, certain high school basketball coaches. And it's like, why am I out here working for this amount of money, giving up all of this time, trying to help things be better, trying to help officials be better, trying to help games when I'm not really appreciated. So I was like, all right, so I don't work high school football or basketball. Right. I do still work high school lacrosse. And that's the funny one because there's a lot more overt racism in lacrosse than there is in football and basketball out here in California. But I kicked in the door a long time ago, and I'm, one of the 2 or 3 best lacrosse officials in California. So I'm here to stay, buddy. So you can talk all you want, but I'm going to be on your game. Can't stop it. So
it is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, Dietrich. Yeah. Some of those assistants are, and I have to keep in mind some of these people they just grew up playing Pop Warner and got the job. They never really actually learned the rules. Um, some of them still go by what they learned from a playground or playing rack 'em up in the front yard at somebody's house. Hey, you can't do this. Like, um, and I tell anybody, if you're gonna yell and fuss, you better know the rule. Don't yell and fuss at me and not know the rule, because then I'm gonna have an issue.
And to Rodney's point, I think that's very, very, very important. The other thing is when Rodney and I and Dietrich are out there officiating the actual rules, and we know how to speak the rules,
Right.
and they've been dealing with other officials who don't utilize the rule book as we do, it becomes ever more difficult because they're saying that somebody told them something differently, or it's just difficult for those officials because they don't really know the rule book and they're out there officiating on what they've been told, or and it just becomes tough for all involved because again that speaks to the lack of consistency. And it's like if you don't even know the rule book, then yeah, you're going to be out there guessing, and that is the worst thing that you can do when officiating in. Well, I'll speak about the 3 sports I officiate. It's the worst thing that you can do in those 3 sports. Yes.
Yeah.
As an official.
One thing I've never understood, which I've always said I respected about Raul Lara, is that coaches don't come to the referee meetings. They have the opportunity to come in there and sit down in the auditorium when we're going over a video and sit there and see what we're seeing and see the instructors and the top guys, at least on the high school level, talk about plays and talk about what calls should be made and what calls shouldn't be made. And coaches do not show up. Raul used to at least come to 1 or 2. I do remember from being in Long Beach that I would see Raul Lara at a couple of meetings. But other than that, I didn't see coaches at meetings, at referee meetings. And I'm like, why wouldn't you go and listen to how they're working the rules so that you would be able to teach your team that?
And you know what? And to that point, I'm going to give somebody some credit for something. So one shout out to Randy Campbell, who is my supervisor in the RMAC, the Rocky Mountain Athletic Conference in basketball. Randy always has coaches at his clinics, but also coaches are allowed to and do dial into our meetings throughout the season and the preseason. Yeah. Also, the memos that he sends out to us every other week and then every week during the season also go to the coaches and administrators. So they all know what we are talking about or what he wants to say to us. They know it too. And then I'm gonna give credit to Greg Burks, who is the supervisor of the Big 12 in the Mountain West, and that group is called the CFO West. So I'm in that group, and when we have our clinic, that's football. When we have our clinics every year, he's got coaches and administrators who come to those clinics and get to ask questions and get those answers, and then also the weekly bulletin that goes out from the CFO West goes to coaches and ADs also. So I like what those two do. And then Rich Colin does it too for JC football. He sends it out and it goes to coaches, administrators, ADs, and us. And then everybody gets it, and then the video clip, all of that. So those 3 supervisors do it. I know that there are others that do it also. And I think it's good that they incorporate or allow those people to be incorporated. And I like I like it when people take advantage of that. That's super huge.
Yeah, so. That's the biggest part. And more high school coaches should definitely try to get in on going to ref meetings because they're at the local high schools in the area. Even if they can't go, send someone, send a defense coordinator, somebody Wherever you feel like you're having an issue, you should either attend or send a coach on that side of the ball, whoever you can trust to actually bring you back the correct information, because that part is important too.
If I go back into coaching, is it ever a opportunity for a ref to come in and have a meeting with the team and go over rules? I would love to have my seniors sit in a meeting room, and have you guys come and give a workshop on the questions that they may have. If that was, my receivers, my DBs, my linemen, anybody that has an issue with ticky-tack infractions, if they can hear it from the horse's mouth that we not making this stuff up. Just the information you shared today as far as how different crews come in with a different mindset because they come from a different vein of teaching, not because they have a problem with Long Beach Poly or they like modern day, but this is how they were taught. This is how they're going to officiate this game. And that way it's like a dad and his son. You're trying to coach your son up, but he don't listen until he hears it from somebody else. If you can hear what the coaches have been barking all camp long, and then you finally have the officials break that down for you, and you see, this is what I'm talking about. You have to be this much more careful versus this type of team in this environment. If we're going to the Santa Ana Bowl to play modern day, and the officiating crew looks like the same officiating crew that referees the New England Patriots games, then you got to be on your best behavior, because they're going to call every single thing. I think it's something that a coach that really wants to give his kids an advantage should do. They should be in cahoots, if not on the same page as the ref crew, so they don't have their kids being penalized for more yards than they gain. So I think it's just any coach that wants to win will do that. Is that normal though? Do refs give meetings to teams, or that's probably
the officiating organizations.
Yeah.
Yes, and they invite coaches and ADs.
That's kind of like a conflict of interest.
Yeah, that's happening. So listen, but here's one thing that I want to share. So in basketball, and this is probably one of the issues that Sharif had with me. I'm a stickler for the rule book. Like I do know how to officiate the spirit of the rule, but certain things are black and white, like free throw violations. I call free throw violations. I'm not the only one in California that calls free throw violations, but I call all of them. And that is a problem for
petty ref.
No, but here's the thing. It's an advantage.
Yeah.
That's the thing. If we can't, like, that's not, here's the thing. Free throw violations are not left up to interpretation. Those are not judgment calls. Those are black and white. And we need to officiate the black and white things as black and white, and then use our judgment on block charge plays. But you should be able to coach your team to not violate on free throws, especially when you see AC walk in the gym, because that's what you call me. He the free throw violation ref. Okay, so if you already know that, then coach your kids not to have free throw violations.
I hate that.
Anyway, listen, he wanted to kill me in the Damien tournament. And it's like, Sharif, you already know me. Like, I don't care that I'm working with a crew that's from Foothill Citrus. I'm still me. Free throw violations are violations. Don't step on the line as the shooter before it hits the rim. If you're behind the shooter and you're on the 3-point arc, don't step in before the ball hits the rim. Everybody else is released on the release.
I'm gonna share this with Sharif.
Hey, Atkinson too, because Atkinson just as bad. I say, Ack, man, you guys up by 40. Don't be yelling for 3 seconds. Rob, we want all of ours. We want all of it. Up by 40, 60, it don't matter.
That's the precedent, man.
But
I know it's got to be the hardest job. It's got to be the hardest job in sports. I think. I mean, it's probably harder than coaching.
Yeah.
You know what? I don't think so. I give big ups to coaches, because you got to deal with those personalities. You got to learn all of them. The parents. Why isn't my son playing? He's better than that boy you got in there. You just a coach so you can give your son a shot and he's sorry. I mean, like, it never stops. with
I
coaches.
guess you're right. You're right with that.
And especially when I went up to Poly one day, my son was up there doing something.
You talking about when you guys were building Poly or sometime recently?
1901.
But,
1910.
you know, I was watching the Pop Warner players practice, and I see all these lawn chairs lined up on the sidelines. And I saw all the single moms. And I'm like, when I played Pop Warner for Poly, my mom never stepped foot at Poly.
Never.
She didn't drop me off. She didn't pick me up. There were times where, I can remember as far back as when I was 8 playing for the Rough Riders. And 8-ball was always that big kid in the plastic suit that was trying to make weight. He was probably already 215 at 9 years old. and he really didn't even practice with us. He just jogged around the baseball field in the practice suit, with the plastic suit, so he could cut weight. Man, and sometimes I would leave there. Jody Pruitt was the quarterback. Shout out to Dip. But Jody had this thing where he liked to prank people. You know, he was like that. And Tony and Jerome would always put players at different spots. You know, no, you move. You go to running back now. And we'd have the little handoff drills with Jody. And Jody would stick it in your stomach extra hard. Like he was either trying to knock the wind out of you, or he was trying to like leave a mark on your stomach by the time you left practice. Jody just did stuff like that. He thought it was hilarious. So there were times where, you know, I'm walking home from practice, I'm hurting. And I can't even remember one time where my mom was like, "Oh, son, you don't feel well. I'm gonna take you tomorrow. I'm gonna pick you up."
Nope.
We walked in groups. And now, you know, it's a different thing because moms are sitting there on the sideline, and as soon as you get on one of those kids, they're like, "Don't talk to my son like that."
Huh.
You better come at one of those other boys like that. And so some of those kids, and I won't say it's all moms. There are some dads like that too. Well, why are you getting on my son? You're not getting on him over there. You know, they got so much of that interaction trying to control practices that I'm like, man, I couldn't be a coach. You know, that's too much for me.
Yeah.
Hey, really quick. Shout out to Trey, who is, like I said, shopping. He just picked up my Nintendo. Wait, what is it called? Oh, my Nintendo Switch Animal Crossing Limited Edition from Target in Northridge. So shout out to Trey for he got 2 of them for his kids. Yeah, he flexed.
He probably got 6 PS5 sitting in the trunk too.
PS5 though, man.
6 of them.
I talked him out of the PS5. When I let him know that no PS4 games work on the PS5, he gave up on it.
But Cobb, you know what? You would never believe how many of the ADs get the rule books and they just sit on a desk. Like the coaches don't even bother to go pick them up and read them. They just sit on the desk.
I believe it, man.
It's amazing to me. Dietrich said it earlier.
My Triple A guys here, y'all excuse me, man. My Triple A guys here.
Okay.
All right.
Be safe, man.
All right, brother.
Later.
Yep.
Thanks for going on.
Appreciate you, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. True that, Dietrich. All right, so look, Rob, let's go ahead and go to the closeout. I got a 3 o'clock. I got a 3 o'clock, and I got to pick Kayla up by 3:30. So this will be fun.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, for me, real quick, man, everyone have a safe and happy Thanksgiving. If you got to get on the freeway, please be careful. I don't want to see some Facebook post of rest in peace because someone got hit by a drunk driver or someone sleep at the wheel. Just be as safe as you can. Wear your mask, stay covered. Keep the gathering small if you have to have them. We're just gonna sit here and maybe my mom, but that's it for us. Um, but watch as much sports as we can, and I will see you guys next week. AC?
Yeah. So yes, do that. Be safe. Um, try to stay home. I'm staying home. My mom and my sister are coming by, but I am staying home. My fiance is going to go with her family, but this is family that she's been around constantly throughout this whole time. So there are no new people being introduced there. And then I am getting a fried turkey and a lemon cake from my guy in Compton. So shout out to Laredo's in Compton. This guy makes amazing fried turkey and amazing lemon cakes. So I like to do that on Thanksgiving, and it's great when that's delivered to me from somebody in my family because just so you guys know, I live about 60 miles from Compton, so it's not down the street. And now I don't have to leave the house. I can just watch bad football all day and not have to take a break because the pickup time is 1 p.m. tomorrow. So, yeah. So shout out to Laredo at Laredo's Fried Turkey out in Compton. Much love, much love. Shout out to Rodney, my man, my mellow. Shout out to Trey, who wasn't with us today. Shout out to Anthony Cobbs. Go Bruins. I wanted to say this earlier. Shout out to Howard University. Rodney became a man at Howard University. Anthony Cobb's daughter is, I want to say she'll become a woman at Howard, but then I don't know how much distance learning there will be, but hopefully she does have the opportunity to become a woman at Howard University. And then shout out to the Vice President-elect Kamala Harris, who is a Howard woman. And yeah, so I did not go to Howard. I have also not officiated Howard, but I was in the MEAC in basketball at one point. And so I had the opportunity or the possibility of officiating Howard. But I'm not in the MEAC anymore, so it doesn't count. But shout out to Howard. I hope they continue to produce leaders because they are a great institution. And I don't know why that's my closeout, like Howard, but shout out to Rodney's good buddy Tracy Lee. Pick up Trey. It's like
Glory.
Tracy Lee used to hang out with Rodney's grandkids, and so that's how he knows Tracy. But yeah, Tracy's got a new project called Glory. I think he just emailed it to Rodney, so Rodney had it on his phone, but it's supposed to be out on DSP soon, like Spotify and iTunes Music. Where did you hear it, Rod? He really did send it to you, right?
No, he sent it to me, and I just have to get it off my laptop to my devices.
Yeah, so he sent it to him, but Tracy Lee did say it's going to be out for other people to get it. And I imagine Spotify, iTunes Music, maybe SoundCloud. I'm excited about hearing it because Rodney professed that it was a great work of art. And so I'm looking forward to hearing that. So shout out to Tracy Lee. Shout out to Rodney. Shout out to Trey. Shout out to Cobbs. Everybody be safe. And we out. Oh, thank you. I'm sorry. Coming back. Thank you, Dietrich. Thank you, Shai. Thank you, David Smoot. Thank you for everybody who came and watched the show, anybody watching now, and thank you to everybody listening. This is the Collective Podcast. This was episode 38. We were live, and we out.
Peace.